on the Six Screens telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, Disney.
Well, there you all are, and thank you for coming in tonight on this blustery night up here in New England, a cold, snowy night, but we're glad you're with us. And folks, I have to tell you something. We are making a lot of headway. The Six Screens is getting more and more people coming in every week, a lot of new ones. So I want to welcome all the new ones coming in. And if this is your first time coming in and listening to what we have to say about the Jehovah's Witnesses, well, by all means, stay with us. Don't run off. Now, I know many people listen in. They have relatives that are Jehovah's Witnesses. They have friends that are witnesses, and they want to find out about them. So I want to welcome all those new ones coming in tonight and listening to our program. And friends, I want to tell you something. This is, the Watchtower organization right now, we're going to get into it in the news, is very tarnished. They're getting a very bad reputation. And many relatives and friends of Jehovah's Witnesses are scratching their head. They're hearing all about the pedophilia. They're hearing about all of these countries that are coming down on the Watchtower, and they're concerned. Many relatives and friends of Jehovah's Witnesses are concerned about their plight in the Watchtower, their friends and relatives' plight, because they're realizing the Watchtower is a very dangerous and destructive cult. We'll be talking more about that tonight. But anyways, my name's Rick Farron. I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And boy, we have got a lot of apostates up here. But as I always say, don't you worry. The Watchtower is hemorrhaging right now, and there'll be more and more ex-witnesses in your neck of the woods, as the Watchtower would call them, apostates. So there'll be plenty more coming. So anyways, I wanted to talk about a few things here tonight before we get into our news. And we got a lot of news to talk about tonight, but let's talk about a couple other things. I wanted to talk about the convention. Now, I have been getting, emails from people saying, well, I didn't get my tickets, Rick. I send the tickets out. Make sure you send me the right email. I'm getting emails back, undeliverable. So, I want to send you the tickets. So if you haven't got your tickets yet, we still have room. We have a little under 300 people that will be coming to our ex-Jehovah's Witness convention up here in the Boston area. That is going to be, in fact, I'm going to put a link up. I do it all the time for you. I'm going to put a link up that's going to be up here in Boston, and you'll see it scrolling across the bottom. And what you want to do is get into the Six Screens of the Watchtower.com. All that information will be there for you. And you will be really able to check out, where you could stay, give you a little idea of what's going on up here in Boston. So it's going to be scrolling across the bottom. You'll see it right now. So check that out. Give you all the ideas you need to come. This is a great place to come. It's going to be August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And that's going to be a beautiful time up here in New England. It's nice and cool for the most part. Sometimes it gets hot, but we have very nice, mild summers and not a lot of humidity, not a lot of heat. So you'll enjoy it. Why don't you come here for vacation? We got Cape Cod. We got the beaches. We got the mountains in New Hampshire. We've got a lot of history here. This is a lot of culture and a lot of history. So if you've never been to Boston, well, by all means, come to Boston. Bring your family. I think you'll find it very, very interesting. Now, we're going to have this convention. It's a 3-day convention. We're lining up speakers now. We do have some speakers that will be here with us. We have some former elders that will be speaking up, talking about, and it's going to be all extreme stories, friends. It's going to be all extreme stories. Now, when we meet on Friday, it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 2025. When we meet on Friday morning, we're going to give everyone who comes. So far, like I said, we have close to 300. Now, what we'll do is we're going to give everyone the opportunity to speak up for 5 minutes or so and tell us why they came. And then if anyone listening to this audience tonight, to this program tonight, has a real extreme story, if you've really been hurt, if you really have been touched, as we say, by the tentacles of the Watchtower, let me know. Write to jwworldnews@gmail.com. We're putting together speakers, so speakers can, have more than 5 minutes. We'll give you a regular slot of a half hour to 45 minutes. Excuse me. So if you would like to come and give a talk and you have an extreme story, it's going to be extreme, something that really could capture the attention of the audience, by all means, write me. Or if you want tickets, write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com. And remember, there's no charge for the tickets. There's no charge. You'll have to pay your own way up here. You'll have to pay for your hotel room. Now, also, when you get your ticket, there's a code that you would use at the Hilton. Now, if you came here and didn't use the code, you would be charged $250 a night. But if you use the code is Ferron. That's my name, Fearon. You use that code when you book your reservation, you'll get the room for $175. So it's a substantial savings there. So by all means, use that code. And check out, you see it scrolling across the bottom. If you'd like to come to the convention, friends, I have to tell you how thrilling it would be to be in a venue of people just like all of us. All of us have been hurt by the Watchtower, touched by the tentacles, as we say. How good that would be. So try your best to come up here this summer. It will be worth your while. It really will be. You'll be hitting your head on the doorpost on the way out. All right.
What was your email again? And is that the Tewksbury Hilton? When you get off the plane, what is the Hilton?
It's the Tewksbury Garden Hilton. And I think you got your tickets, Pixie.
I did.
Yeah, some people have written me. They haven't got them, but I got...
But just repeat the JW World News for everyone.
Yeah, jwworldnews@gmail.com. And it's the Hilton Garden Hotel in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. It's about 20 miles north of Boston. So, in fact, even if you land at Logan Airport, you can take an Uber out, but there's a train that comes right up this way in Lowell, and you could take a bus out to the Hilton. So whatever you decide to do, but we might also, if we do get to 500 people we're talking about coming, we'll have some shuttles going back and forth to pick people up at the airport. So bear that in mind. All right, so see if you can't make it. Thank you, Pixie, for reminding the audience. All right, so that's the first thing I wanted to say. We'll get back to our duck game tonight, too. I got some prizes. You can win some points. You can win some money. I got some great books that we can give you guys. So by all means, we got the duck game coming up. Anyone else want to say anything before we go into the news? Okay, let's see. Just got to mute a few people here. We got some people breathing in the phone. All right, I'm going to mute some people right now. Okay. That way there we don't get... Yeah, when you're not talking, hit *6, and what that does is it gives a nice clean line so everyone can hear it. And so anyways, let's take a look. Let's see what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower, as we say. Well, a bunch of people probably saw... there's a man named Eric, and he does a YouTube videos called Berean Pickets. The man is very good. He's a very good YouTube a streamer. And he makes a lot of sense. He's a Christian man. And he brought up something this week that a number of people have called me on. I saw Eric's YouTube, and he did a very good job. But what Eric of the Berean Pickets YouTube channel has been discussing this week and getting a lot of attention with it is the Watchtower removing older watchtowers from their website. Now, we know you can get into jw.org. We know that you can, download articles. In fact, up until just this week, you could download a lot of articles, went back into the 80s. Now what happens is it's only going back, well, it even will go further back than that, way back. But now what they're doing is it seems like they cut it off to 1981 on the jw.org site. that you can only download or get information on Watchtowers back to 1981. And then even some from 1981 up to 2025 have been removed. So it's very suspicious, right? And even Eric, who does this Berean picket, he says something's not right here. But I'm saying it doesn't pass the smell test. They're removing older watchtowers from their library online. Well, I'm thinking with all the false predictions, with all the false teachings, even, all the false and out of context scriptures they would put into some of these publications, I can really see that the Watchtower has to do something to kind of flush this down the toilet, because it's all coming back to haunt them. Well, what about all of those? Well, I'm thinking this: all of the old light is now being done away with, and now they're making room for new lies, new light or new lies. They're covering up all the old light, and they're making room, as we say, for the new lies. Now, this is something that I got a quote here from George Orwell in the book 1984. Of course, we're a long way from 84, right? But, the world geeks, or the world, not geeks, but I would say control freaks, they want to control you from the cradle to the grave. And of course, that's like the Watchtower. And in George Orwell's 1984, is very much what he talks about here. Who controls the past controls the future, and who controls the present controls the past. So I thought this was very fitting with what the Watchtower is doing here by taking all of these older magazines down, because they can now control the past. When you have false prophecies, when you have, information that was totally garbage, and now you're going to take that away, and people can no longer see your past. Now you can, if you control the past by getting rid of it all, now, as George Orwell says, you can control the future. And then he says, who controls the present controls the past. So now that Watchtower is going to just keep the articles they seem to be appropriate for the witnesses, you'll keep those there. But, they're going to get rid of all the rest from the past. So 1984, we see it. This exactly is what's going on. And what I'm finding too, we know for a fact that the Watchtower is trying to really distance themselves from Russell. I mean, you know that, right? Yeah, they don't want to talk about Russell anymore. How many Watchtower articles do you see Charles Taze Russell popping up in? Hardly any, if any. And how about Rutherford? Do you really think the Watchtower is happy, is proud of J.F. Rutherford? Are you serious? They're going to get rid of him too. So, he's being flushed down the toilet. Russell's being flushed down the toilet. But now, if they're going to be getting rid of a lot of these publications in the Noor era and the Franz era, it looks like they're getting rid of them too. So the Watchtower really isn't happy with any of these people who are really ruling the Watchtower for many years. It seems like they're making big changes. I mean, for decades, all of us that are listening to this program, for the most part, some can go back to Noor, like myself, but for the most part, we've followed Frederick Franz, before this governing body came into existence. But many of us were familiar with Frederick Franz. Many of us have met him, and he was considered, Franz was considered the oracle of the society in many of the teachings that they teach. But now, I guess people in the Watchtower is realizing that even Frederick Franz's teachings were just a myth. They weren't true. So no wonder that they want to de-Franz. They want to get rid of his thoughts, his writings, his ideology on Watchtower. and they're actually removing much of the stuff that he actually was the co-founder of. Now, what were some of these changes? What were some of these things that we see that is making the Watchtower a little antsy, getting a little bit nervous? Well, I'm just thinking of some off the top of my head, and you guys can think of some too. I'm going to throw the lines open here in a while. I want to get your thoughts on it. But, if you think about it, so many, if you go just go back to 81 as the Watchtower is. And then even, well, I think of 1995, I believe they removed that year too. I'm not quite sure, but I think they have. But see, that was a pivotal year. 1995 was when they changed the generation. And they now said that this generation was contemporaries of Jesus. I mean, we know how foolish that was. They got to get rid of that. They really got to get rid of that. And then, of course, there's other things, too, that they got to get rid of. I mean, all through the publications from really the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, they talked about the United Nations and how ugly it is and how deceptive and how it was a disgusting thing standing in the holy place. And they had so many names for it. And yet they were part of it. In 1992, British newspaper spilled the beans on the Watchtower and how they were an NGO, a non-governmental organization of the United Nations. So I'm just thinking other things too. They changed so much that they can't have some of this stuff in their older publications. Can you guys, do you think of anything? Can you think of anything that you think the Watchtower would want to hide? Go ahead, Pixie.
I love your expression, control geeks. Please keep using that.
I will. I actually.
It's good.
Well, thank you.
I think it's like the Great Reset. I think they're in on it.
Well, I'll tell you what. Many have thought that, including even Fritz Springmeier, who has a program here from time to time on the 6 screens. Many have thought they're involved with the reset. But you would see, Pixie, how they really have to get rid of their past. Their past is haunting.
Oh, they had one issue of the Watchtower that I still can't find called The Brotherhood on the cover. And if anybody has bound volumes, I would love for them to chime in on that particular issue. I think it was 89, perhaps. It could have been an Awake, but I think it was a Watchtower.
Yeah, there's so many publications that would indict them. So many, and they have to remove those. And I'm sure they're also removing other information from other publications as well. But I'm just focusing tonight here on the Watchtowers they're removing. But that Eric, it does.
We're in a crazy world, and I'm sure you'll get to the fire story in California. There's a whole lot of witnesses in LA County, and a lot of them work as artists in the industry and stuff. I did some checking, and Associated Press has confirmed that the insurance companies backpedaled on the policies before that disaster. And this was even for the rich people with the beautiful beach houses that would have no problem paying their policy. So rich and poor have all lost homes. It's very sad.
Yeah, well, we got a story all about that tonight. We'll bring that up, but I want you to weigh in on that too. We got a lot to talk about there. That's coming up. So I wanted to say that it really got my attention, the Berean Pickett Eric's YouTube video this week. We all should see that. He says there's something really disturbing about it. And there is. They're removing all of their publications, or the ones that were indicting. But that's not, that's just this time. The Watchtower magazines, they're taken off. But, all through the 1990s, all through the early 2000s, and even up till now, the Watchtower wants those books they printed in the past to disappear. And many have. As a matter of fact, we had one man call in a few years back, and he had proof that they were actually at Watchtower Farms. They had all of the old literature that because they asked at the Kingdom Halls if anyone has any older literature, if they could send it in. And what they were saying back then, that would have been around, I would say, 2002, 2003. They were asking the congregations to, if anyone has any older literature, would like to be able to give it to people so they can learn the truth too. No, and the people, the witnesses would send all of the publications up to Warwick, and they had a building specifically set up there where they would burn all the old publications. Now, a man called into 6 Screens one night and told us about that, and I believe it. I mean, can I present it as a fact? No, but it sounds reasonable to me. Well, the excuse to Watchtower said the reason why they wanted to get these older publications back is to help people to come into the truth. Can you believe that? That is a con job if I've ever heard it. So, they burned all these publications. In fact, the Kingdom Hall in Lowell, Massachusetts, I had a friend that was going there, and he picked up, one day he went to the Kingdom Hall, and on the sidewalk was boxes. I mean 100 boxes of old publications from the old Lowell Hall. So he took them all. He picked them all up and put in his van, took off. And he asked me if I wanted them. I still have them. I have them in storage. But why would they get rid of all of these older publications? And I've got right here, I believe I have the largest library of Watchtower literature on the East Coast. I've been collecting it, and people have been sending me it. But I have to keep a lot of it because, a lot of the witnesses, they will not go with something they read online, that they have to see it in a publication. So I've got it, but they are still trying so hard to remove their past. And, another thing I'm thinking that they would want to hide, one of the biggest blemishes in their history is 1975. Well, why would they want to hide that? Because they are false prophets. They told everybody, and even though they backpedaled and came up with all kinds of excuses, they told everybody 1975 was going to be the end of 6,000 years of man's existence. And what does that mean? That means Armageddon. Well, we've heard the talk, but what a phony baloney story that is. They got to get rid of all of this stuff, all of it. And they got to develop a new way of thinking, that they cannot lug along the past and move forward in the future. It'll never, ever happen. And that I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk about it just a little bit here. In fact, I'll talk about it right now. I look back and I'm trying to get as much information as I can from people. I've been doing that here feverishly for a while. And, what really woke people up in the year 2024? Last year, there was so many people that woke up. You want to talk about pimos, people physically in, mentally out? Millions. I'm not talking thousands. I'm talking millions of people in the Jehovah's Witness organization became pimo. Yeah, now, the Watchtower, they're aware of it. They know there's a whole class of people that aren't loyal. They're just going to the Kingdom Halls in a perfunctory way. They don't want to be shunned. So these people they're just kind of carrying on with it. But I estimate there's 4 million pimos. And I'm not really that much off base. There's 4 million people that I believe are pimos. They no longer really believe in the witness doctrine. They don't believe the witnesses have the truth. But what are they going to do? Well, what would you do? You have your family, your friends, you don't want to be shunned. But boy, I'll tell you, there could be a day of reckoning. Imagine if they all left at once. But let's just go with 4 million. Let's just go with 4 million. Now, how about PMEs? Right now, we have people listening into this program that are PME. That is, they're physically in and they're mentally in. But somehow they got listening in here tonight, and they have been listening in for the last, I'd say, a few years here. they still don't, they're not pimo yet. They still have it mentally in their head, but they're moving closer and closer to the door at the Kingdom Hall. So if you're a PME, that is, you're a loyal Jehovah's Witness, I'm glad you're in here with us tonight. And you listen to what the people have to say. It's not just me. It's not just me. There's other people making thoughts and comments too about the Watchtower, and they have been hurt by it. But anyways, just to get cut to the chase here, I did a little research on what is really waking people up, especially in 2024. What woke so many people up that they no longer really believe in the Watchtower? Well, it was a number of things, but I'm going to tell you one of the things that was a real big game changer. One of the things that really got people thinking about, do I want to be a Jehovah's Witness? I'm going to tell you, it seems simple on the surface, but one of the biggest things was the change that the Watchtower made in beards. Now, of course, they made that change in December of 2023, but I'm going to say let's carry it to 2024 because that's when it really hit. So the change in beards, you can now have a beard. Couldn't have a beard before, but now a man can have a beard. And they also changed the dress and grooming codes. Sisters could wear slacks now or pantsuits. And they also had new rules on those that were disfellowshipped or removed. Now, in my survey that I took here at the 6 screens, that was one of the big motivational factors in getting witnesses to leave the organization. And because then they started saying, well, wait a minute. Now, I want you to think about this. We have a smart audience here, so I know you can come to grips with this. So if you belong to a biblically based, as they would say they were, organization, and they're telling you that, it's improper for a man to have a beard, there's no biblical reference to that. But now all of a sudden in 2024, you can have a beard. Wouldn't you say, well, I thought you guys used the Bible. Well, what was your basis before? And also on women wearing slacks, and also the rules on one being, well, they call it removed now, but the rules have been changed on disfellowshipping. They no longer call it disfellowshipping. They call it being removed. And we'll get into that too. But you can see these changes as clear as can be. And that actually moved many people to leave the Watchtower. And another thing too, I'm gonna give you some reasons, according to my survey here, on why people left. How about, I'm going to tell you another big reason why many people left, even though, again, this was in 2023 that Tony Morris left. But I have to bring it up because the carryover, so sometimes a residual effect doesn't take place until a year or so later. So in 2024, a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses left because of the disappearance of Tony Morris. Now, Tony Morris, as we all know, was a governing body member. And at that moment, for many people, when Tony left, they say the Watchtower went down the rabbit hole. They say something really got screwy. So that is another reason why so many people got out of the organization in 2024. And again, the disfellowshipping came up a lot. Like I say, it's now being called removing. But, you could now, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal. A lot of people say, well, Rick, it wasn't a big deal. The change in disfellowshipping hasn't changed anything. I disagree. I have friends that have been disfellowshipped, and they would go to the Kingdom Hall. Nobody would talk to them. They would have to sit up on the back, and they would have to keep their mouth shut. They couldn't say a thing. And now the change in disfellowshipping is allowing people to come to the Kingdom Hall. In fact, witnesses can even invite disfellowship ones to come to the Kingdom Hall. So they come to the Kingdom Hall and you can talk to them. You can talk to them. I mean, that's big. That's big news. And also, as I said just earlier, they no longer call it disfellowshipping. I mean, that term has been around since the early 50s. So they don't call it disfellowshipping anymore, but this is just a matter of semantics. That's all it is, a play on words. And disfellowshipping, the term does not exist anymore in the Watchtower, but the term removed. You will be removed. Now, and they're not doing it so fast either. There are many people, including even myself. I only had one judicial committee hearing, and that was it. Done and finished. I was kicked out of Satan's organization in 2005. No questions asked. I was kicked out for apostasy. All right. So now you have a few chances. So suppose you were an adulterer. I suppose even, well, maybe not an apostate. That's the worst thing, but a pedophile, a rapist, a criminal, even a murderer. Now you can go and you can say to the elders, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to kill that person. I didn't mean to rape that person. I didn't mean to, fondle that little girl." And they're going to listen to you, and they're going to have not one judicial meeting. They'll have a number of them, upwards of 3, to try to persuade you to have a change of heart. And you won't be disfellowshipped if you do, because all you have to do now, even to be reinstated, you know how easy it is? Do you know how hard it was to be reinstated before this year? Before, 2024, you know how hard it was? I mean, we have a man that's come on the program here. In fact, he's had his own program, Larry John Wayne. He for years, he tried to get back in. I got another friend, Dick Borgie, who listens in, has his own program coming up tonight. He tried to get reinstated. Geez, it was like cutting teeth. You couldn't get reinstated. You couldn't. It was almost impossible. But now all you have to do to be reinstated is go to the elder and say, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I really am repentant." Boom, you're back in. There you go. You got your ticket to ride again in the Watchtower. So things are changing. So there's fellowshipping, the new rules on that's moved a lot of people out of the Watchtower. Now, another thing, the biggest thing. Can you guys guess what the biggest thing was? Why so many people left the Watchtower or became PIMOs in 2024? Who would like to take a shot at it? What's the biggest reason for people becoming, disconnecting from the Watchtower in 2024? Who would like to answer that question? I'll give you 5 points. 5 points. Who would like to answer that question? In fact, let me put the telephone number up here. Who would like to answer that? What was the biggest reason why many Jehovah's Witnesses left in 2024? I hope our phone lines are working. Geez, we got a whole lot of people coming in. Would someone just speak up? You don't have to answer, but I just want to make sure. What was the biggest reason?
Norway.
I'll tell you what, that came in about second. But what was the number one reason why people left the Watchtower in 2024? No, I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. Friends, you got to know this. I'll tell you what it is. CSA, child sex abuse. Do you realize the people that have been sick and tired of hearing it on the radio, the newscast, the television programs, the documentaries? Don't you think the witnesses are listening too? Even PIMIs. And they're listening to this. And then, if you hear it enough, you started looking it up. All you had to do was hit Google, child sex abuse in the Watchtower. Bing, 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 bing. I mean, it wouldn't stop dinging on you. You got to come up all over the place.
What was that year again? Was that the year of the Australian Royal Commission?
Well, actually, the 2024 is, I'm giving the reason, Pixie, why so many witnesses have left in 2024. This is probably the biggest, even though, they didn't physically leave, they became PIMOs. But 2024, one of the biggest reason why people left the Watchtower is because of child sex abuse cover-up. They're seeing it. And they're saying, we can't, and then...
Finally seeing it, but it's been going on since Russell was young.
You're right. But see, you mentioned the Australian Royal Commission. And in fact, on the survey that I took, I got a number of people here that responded, but the survey I took, the overwhelming thought here on child sex abuse is that Jeffrey Jackson is a liar. And they brought up the fact, they got in there, they listened to the Australian Royal Commission, and they said he was lying. He was actually lying numerous times in there. And that actually moved many people to leave the Watchtower, or to at least become pimo.
In the I guess it was the 1980s, might have been the late 70s, early 80s. The New York purge was because so many at Bethel were having Bible studies in their rooms and wanted a sip.
That was in 1981. That is when Fred Fran's brother, who was on the governing body, turned apostate. He said, something's wrong with this organization. You're right, Pixie. There's a lot of people that left then too. But I've mentioned on this program before, there were 2 times in Watchtower history that 250,000 people left in 1 year. Now, 1 year was back in I believe it was 25, actually a little before that. I think it was 22, 24, in there somewhere. I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me. But 250,000 people left when Rutherford became the president of the Watchtower. These were the international Bible students, 250 of them, right around the early 20s, 22, 23, when Rutherford came in. These guys packed their bags and off they went, 250. Now, another time, the Watchtower lost 250 people in one shot, 1 year. Well, that was in 1975, 1976. There was a big drop off. And I'm going right by Watchtower publications here. I'm not just doing this on the wing. I've checked it out. In the Watchtower, the amount of people that left, you could see it by examining 1 year to the next. And in 1975, 76, in that time period, 250,000 people left because they knew it was phony. So many people relied so much on 1975, and they sold their homes. They went into pioneering. They became, they went to where the need was great, and they were so disappointed. But not only that, but a lot of people had said enough is enough is enough. And then when the Watchtower came out and said, well, we never said that, that even caused more people to leave. So 250,000.
Not telling their people to read the Bible daily anymore. That was on the building in Brooklyn. And like many Christian organizations, you can get a little chart, and within a year you can read the whole Bible, and the pioneers used to do this. But if you do that, from a Christian perspective, their doctrine's not going to wash.
Oh no, their doctrine is not going to show any sensibleness at all. It's not. I mean, that's what's causing people to leave. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what. A number of people responded to my survey to 607. Of course, the Watchtower says, well, Jerusalem actually got destroyed in 607. And that's a phony baloney date. If you do,
I know you're sick of me telling the story, but when I was on my honeymoon in London at the British Museum, there's a brass plaque the size of a pizza box that has the right number on it, because so many people had asked the British Museum, they have some authority in archaeology, I think, that this was a year, and they said no. It's a huge plaque with that number for that reason.
Yeah, well, in fact, I'm in a survey here. Many people got out. Can you imagine that? Many people left the Watchtower in 2024 because 607 is a bogus year. Jerusalem fell in 587. That's a fact. Yeah, 587. That's when Jerusalem fell.
That plaque in big numbers. 587.
Yeah. So you see what it is. So why wouldn't people leave the Watchtower? Now, not everybody. And, I'm not going to say everybody's a flunky dummy in that organization. They're not. There's some smart people. But the smart people are going to find their way out. They're going to cross the They're going to cross the caution line, so to speak, and leave.
And also, they were wrong with the scripture that says, "Where do we go?" When people want to exit, and they say, "Well, where do you go? Where would we go, Lord?" The scripture, and I know it's not Sunday. The scripture says, "To whom would we go?"
Yeah, well, we can bring that up here because it's in the general realm of discussing why people leave.
They're pushing that says, "Where do we go?" That is not what the book says. If that's the book you're following, that's not what the book says.
Well, in my little survey here, I'm glad you brought that up, Pixie, because in my little survey here, another reason why people left the Watchtower in 2024 is by them phoning up the scriptures, phone in their New World Translation. People are waking up. I mean, not everybody in the organization's a dumbbell, but people are starting to say, "My goodness, this doesn't make sense to me." They're telling me one thing, but I'm seeing other things out there. Well, thank you, Pixie. Thank you for contributing here tonight. I mean, it's very good you do that. Thank you. All right, I think is that Susan online with us, Susan?
Yeah, that was my big question is, because I've had this experience, and I'd like feedback because I don't get it. Especially like when 1975 is brought up, or the child sex abuse. Why do people stay? Why? I confronted my former husband with literature in his book bag that was patently false, and he just lied to my face. Why did they stay? Why?
Well, tell the audience, Susan. Tell the audience what you found in your husband's book bag. They'd like to know that.
Well, married for 37 years, never looked in his book bag, not once. He left that on all his papers around all the time because he knew I'd never look. Well, the one time I looked, there was a letter that said that there were 8 letters about child sexual abuse, and that no one was to keep them. They were to be destroyed. All 8 letters. None of them were to be kept. So I walked up to him with the information, and I said to him, "Where are these 8 letters? Why must you destroy 8 letters on child sex abuse that is being caused in the Watchtower?" He says, "There's no such thing." So how can you say there's no such thing? The letter's right here. It says you have 8 letters. Why would that be so? Nope, not true. I couldn't believe it. That was it for me. I said, "I have the proof right here, and you're saying it's not true? How can that be?" So that was it.
Well, that was enough to really let you know that your husband was lying to you, Susan.
To my face, right there, with proof.
There you go.
So I couldn't figure it out. I said, "Well," I asked, "is there child sex abuse in the Watchtower?" Because I didn't even know. I just trusted everything the Watchtower said, never questioned it. I did after that day. That was it.
Well, I'll tell you, so that
Someone's face.
I know when we first got married, even going 11 years ago, you mentioned that story to me, but yet your husband.
We have the letter. Remember,
Yeah.
I copied it.
Yep.
We have that letter.
Yes, we do.
Destroy the former 8 letters.
Yes, we do. Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, thank you for helping us to come to grips with that. So, but you asked the question that you asked was, how can people still remain in the Watchtower when they see this handwriting on the wall? And I mean, I have thoughts on it, but I'd like to throw that out to the audience. We got a lot of people listening in here tonight. I would like to throw out to the audience, why do Jehovah's Witnesses stay in the organization even after they hear this information? Would someone like to step forward and answer that?
Yeah, right. Let me take a couple of shots at that. One of the things that I think is that Jehovah's Witness rank and file believe that they are the elite. They are the self-righteous. Most religions don't. So, and also Jehovah's Witnesses, they speak a language all to themselves. They have different terminology that other religions don't have, and they have doctrines that other religions don't have. They feel that they're very elite and they're very smug about it, and it's coming back to bite them. Thanks, Rick.
Well, good idea, Doug. I mean, Dick, good idea. You got it. Go ahead. We got Dan. We got. I believe it's Dick. I think no. I think it's Dan.
Hello, Rick. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go right ahead. Oh, okay. Thank you. This is Joe. Two reasons, and one is the biggest reason that anyone would value religion, let alone Watchtowers, fear of death. They're afraid of death, and so they want some assurance of what's going to happen to them after they die. But beyond that, what Watchtower has the big heavier power over is they're taking people's relationships away from them. They steal their family and friends and people that they love away from them, and they will do that. I believe that's the biggest reason that keeps a lot of PIMOs in.
So, Joe, in fact, so just get it clear, and I love what you're saying because I do agree with you on this. So, just to get it clear, so when say a PME, a loyal Jehovah's Witness, hears a story about pedophilia, even if they think it's true, they will stay in because of relatives and friends, you think?
Oh, why not? I mean, why would anyone in their right mind want their relationships? Why would they want to lose a relationship because of that?
Well, no, that's well.
I mean, we didn't want to lose our relationships, our children, but we also didn't want to support that organization and their criminal activity.
All right, now that's good. Now let me ask you this, you and Fran. Now, of course, you started finding some of this stuff out. It took me about, I'd say, 4 years, maybe in 5 years, when I started finding some of the corruption and stuff that was going on to wiggle my way loose. So when you and Fran first started hearing some of this, apostasy stuff in the Watchtower, how long did it take you to leave?
When we started hearing the apostasy or the pedophilia?
Well, actually, when you started hearing anything that was negative, let's go with that. How long from the inception of you first hearing it to saying, that's it, I've had enough?
Well, what I immediately did is I realized I had to start researching, and I gave myself permission to research. And whereas previous to that, I just didn't research because of the fear that they basically put into us.
And we stopped donating money.
And we stopped donating money immediately.
And then we were PIMO for 1 year, because we did not want to lose our family.
No.
And we tried to pretend, but we could not. Our kids know us so well. We couldn't even last a year. And they said, what's going on? You're not as zealous as you used to be. And, one thing after another.
Right.
And they started shunning us. So we said, well, they're shunning us. What's the sense of hiding or, trying to be PIMO?
Right. No, in no way did I want to stay in that organization and support it by my physical presence and by me being a number in support of that organization. I said, in no way did I want that.
Yeah. So to answer your question, from the time that we woke up to the time we disassociated was exactly 1 year.
Yeah.
Wow. See, well, you got out pretty quick. It took me a little longer, but you know what I find fascinating here? The life of a PIMO. That's a difficult life. I mean, did your relatives pick up that? I mean, obviously must have, because I know they picked it up on me, that they did, because how could you not make little remarks that they would pick up on, right? So so your relatives started seeing little things you were saying, hey, wait a minute, they're not loyal witnesses. Yep.
Oh yeah, no, they realized that, and we let them know, and right away. I mean, they were supportive of us.
Yeah, because our relatives were not Jehovah's Witnesses. Only our 4 children.
Yeah,
That's all. Just
Yeah.
our 4
just
adult children.
Is there any evidence that they're turning their direction away from the Watchtower, Fran and Joe?
Not that we know of.
we haven't heard a single thing from them
Yeah, no, not.
for almost 3 years.
Mhm.
Well, I have to tell you though, seriously, your children are young enough, and I tell this, my wife Susan here, she has 2 beautiful daughters too. They're still in the witness world with their husbands. And I can honestly feel in my heart that they're not gonna, the more this Watchtower puts out this garbage, that they gotta wake up and smell the coffee. I've had it already, and I feel blessed. I'm not trying to brag about it, because I hope it can happen to everybody else. But I had 3, actually 4. I got one this week as well. 4. Well, they're seeing this stuff on the YouTube and the 6 screens and what have you. Got 4. I had a relative that this week, I can't say who, that said that's it. They've had enough of it. Yeah. So that's good news. Yeah. Yeah.
Good for you,
That's
Rick.
good.
Good for you.
So that's good feeling. Yeah.
Hey, Rick.
I'll listen.
Okay, well, Joe, always good to hear from you and Fran. I mean, you make my day when you guys come on. You really do. Is this Eric?
No, it's Chad.
Yeah, Chad.
I don't want to interfere there with the conversation. I just wanted to say that all my brothers and sisters and myself and my mother, everybody except my father, were Jehovah's Witnesses. My brother was an elder for as long as I can remember. And I rode in the car with him because I was the youngest. All the rest of them were older. And I'd ride in the car with him when he'd go to give public talks and everything. But I was 60 years old, and my son had been disfellowshipped, and he had tried to get back in. He had wrote a couple letters, and he couldn't get back in. And his disfellowshipping was terrible. I appealed it, and I was very upset at the way it went at the appeal. But just to make this short, he called me up on the phone and said that the Watchtower belonged to the United Nations. And I live in California at this time, and he was living in Kansas. And I said, no way. I said, there's no way they belong to the United Nations, because my brother used to teach me everything. Plus, we went through the Revelation book 5 times or whatever, and I knew that they was not supposed to belong to the United Nations. Well, it only took me about 2 days, and I called my brother and said, these guys belong to the United Nations. And I never could get one word said except to one brother. I was never able to talk to any of my family. They started shunning me. I never did get disfellowshipped. They started shunning me, but it only took me about 2 days, and I was out. I never did go back. I never did go back to another meeting. And I just wanted to say, I was 60 years old when that happened, but when I knew that they were in the United Nations, I was done.
Well, good for you. That in my little survey here, I did have a number of people even say that that really brought a lot of people out. Now, you must have been frustrated when you went to your relatives or friends and told them. They didn't believe you, right?
I was very frustrated. You know, the brother that ended up being the best to me, he tried to say that I had a bad heart when that happened. Well, my oldest sister, when I went to my brother's house, and he said, let's go over to my oldest sister's, and we drove over there. And she said, would you like a cup of coffee? And I said, yes. And my brother, he asked me a question. And, you know, at that time, I was so newly out. He asked me a question, and I said, well, they're criminals. And my sister kicked me out of the house. At that, I said 2 words, and that was it. And then the rest of my family, you know, it just traveled like wildfire, and I never was able to talk to him, except for one brother, but he was 80 some years old, and he passed away. Both of my brothers, my sister, all passed away. And I've only got one sister left, and I still can't talk to her, and I have a daughter I can't talk to.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. I mean, I'm not looking through rose-colored glasses, but in fact, I just said a little while ago, 4 people, my relatives. I'm going to make that 5. There's actually 5 that have come out recently, and you know, I've been getting people writing me, and they're saying I had one couple write me. They said that their whole family, all of the kids, they had 3 or 4 kids, they all came out together. So, you know, I have to tell you, is the more stupid the Watchtower gets, the more people are going to be leaving, and that's a fact. So don't you give up hope, brother. Don't you give up hope. All of those,
Well,
yeah.
I try to stay positive, but in the Midwest where I grew up, they do not get, they just don't get enough information, I don't think. I mean, they may get it, but it just seems like it's like they're staying hid. And all my friends and stuff that I used to know, it's like they've all disappeared. But here nor there, yeah, I'm hoping that something happens before too long, because everybody's getting too old. And
Well, that's the other thing. I you just hold on. I'm not trying to in any way over embellish it or overemphasize it. I really do believe. I just feel the dynamics at play here. They're going to have a whole lot. Look, we got 4 million PIMOs. Maybe some of your relatives are PIMOs and they're just scared to death to do anything. So give them time. Hey, brother, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for calling in. Yeah. All right. So, what do you think? I'm going to stay with this question a little bit longer. When you first found out how corrupt and how fraudulent the Watchtower is, how long did it take you to say, that's it, I've had enough? Go
Hey,
ahead.
Rick?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, along with all the other good comments that came in, I mean, I liked all of them. I like the fact that people are afraid to leave because they know they're going to lose their family. They've seen enough people get detached. But the thing I was going to hit on tonight was kind of going back to Pixie a little bit, where Pixie said, where will we go? Sorry about that. I've seen that online a lot, where people on YouTube will ask me, Dan, where do you go? You know, where do we go now? And I thought, why are they asking that? You know, they'd be free. And then I realized, Rick, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but they don't have any ability to know where to go. They're lost. Mm-hmm. And the reason they're lost is they're not able to discern. And the reason they're not able to discern is, one, they don't know truth from falsehood. Here's an interesting thought. They have been compartmentalized for years. And what I mean is, they've been told what was true was false over and over. Now, we know 75, they say it never happened. That's what they say now. So that's a compartmentalization. Inside of them is your inner GPS, your knower, your bullshit meter, your thing that says, hey, I'm getting screwed and I know it, right? And so there's no bullshit meter no more. There's no inner GPS. There's nobody home. I won't swear, but there's nobody home, Rick. And I used to get kind of frustrated. And when I talked to him recently, I would talk to him at the coffee shop, or I would talk to him at the little cart stands. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean, Watchtower's home, but Watchtower has completely taken over all of their thinking. Actually, they've given their thinking all over to Watchtower, the governing body. When they came in, you're going to give us our spiritual food at the proper time. So they haven't had to think for years. I didn't start thinking for myself for 10 years after I got out. There was nobody home in my head. And I was saying the same thing as they were. Where do we go? And here's the thing, Rick. If you've been told a lie over and over and over, you start to believe it. But see, what Watchtower's done is Watchtower goes, never happened. We never promised anybody in 75. Those are those people in California that couldn't wait for the end to come. And then the generation, then the overlapping. And that's kind of where I kind of checked out. I don't know what they promised after that. But when you've been lied to a dozen times, it's kind of like having a bad deal. You've got a bad financial deal. And the guy says, you just got screwed. You lost the lunch money. He says, hey, just leave it there. It's going to come back. And then you lose again. You lose again. Eventually, you don't have the ability to reason. You're being strung along. So I have to say the reason they're not able to figure out where to go is they haven't had to use their mind. They really don't know where to go. They thought this was the truth. And when you leave, there is no infrastructure. When you leave the Kingdom Hall, they've cut you off from your friends, families. There's no infrastructure. You're like on a tightrope. And there's nobody. You don't have any association. You've come from all this familiarity, all this people getting together, going over for lunches, going out in service, and then it's cut off like an arm. And so I think that's kind of terrifying to think about now. And when I talk to these people, there's nobody there, Rick. There really isn't nobody there but a Watchtower comment or go to jw.org. Do you agree with me, Rick? What do you think?
Oh, 100% there is. I like the term infrastructure that you're using. Right, because there's in other words, you're jumping out of a plane without a parachute. I mean, you don't know what's going
That infrastructure, I just want to say real quick, and then you can say it, but that infrastructure, Watchtower runs that infrastructure. There is no person in there thinking. They call that consciousness. Their consciousness has been given over to Watchtower, so Watchtower runs them. We all know all this through fear, through this. They crank up the fear. They do this, they all sorts of things. But anyway, that's all I wanted to contribute tonight. Thanks, Rick. And go ahead.
Hi, can I jump in, Rick?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe. Yes.
I think most people understand that there are many prisoners who are what's called institutionalized. A person goes to prison, and some can't wait to get out. They need to get out. They'll fight to get out. There are others that when they get out, they don't know what to do. In fact, not only do they not know what to do, it disturbs them to be so free. And they do whatever they can to go back into that institution. They're afraid of freedom. And that's the same parallel with people in religion, and especially high control religions, because what the religion has done, it's taken over their life, and they gave it over to them. Now, I didn't give it over to them, but there are people that have literally given their life over, and they don't want it back. They don't want to be responsible for making a life for themselves. In other words, they're comfortable being slaves. They need a master. It scares the daylights out of them to be without their master. And the Watchtower knows that. They know human nature better than we've known it ourselves. And that's the difference in people. Some are willing slaves. Others will not be a slave.
Well, that's a very sensible statement and narrative that you just gave. And I can connect with that because I talked to a person not too long ago that left the Jehovah's Witnesses. And she said to me, well, Rick, I kind of liked it. I kind of miss it. I says, you do? I said, what do you miss? And she said she missed the regimented lifestyle. She says, I really like some direction in my life. I knew that I had to go to the meeting on such and such a day, had to study the Watchtower, had to go out in service. But there are people like that, Joe. So I'm not going to discount that, you know?
Yeah, they crave that.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah, let's go the first one first. Yeah, I know who that was, but go ahead. You're on with us.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, Rick, just along with what Joe said, I think that's why we did so well in poor communities. When we went into educated communities where people were empowered, you know, and had educations and stuff, we didn't really get too far. But the people in the poor communities that needed a hand up, like Joe said, they would fit in perfectly in there. And like you said, they didn't want to go. I had a hard time when I got out. I was that poor person. I was that born in that small house in Detroit. You know, I didn't know anything, no education. And so it was a family. And it was just, you know, the circumstances, watching everybody around me, you know, looked like everybody was succeeding, new cars, new homes, all except me. And I felt behind. So I went for it and left. But like Joe said, a lot of people, they're comfortable in there. They've got a community, they've got association, camaraderie, you know, they got a sense of commitment. So it's good enough. Anyway, that's it, Rick. Thanks.
Well, Dan, in fact, I just want to say when Dan comes on, our numbers go up. Go ahead. Who's on there with us? Is that yeah, go ahead.
Dan, he's magnificent. He really is. He puts things in really great perspective. I just want to add to the last couple of callers that were on. I talked to a staff sergeant one time when I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps, and I said to him, well, your second enlistment is almost over. I said, are you getting out? He said, well, no. I said, I can't. He says, it's a way of life to me. And I said, well, they're going to send you back to Nam. He said, I know. I said, you very easily could be killed over there. He says, yeah, I know. I've already been there once. So I said, why don't you just get out? He said, well, I've got some authority which I'll never have in the civilian world. He was a staff sergeant. He was a staff NCO. And that goes really well with what Dan Clark and the other brother that followed him was saying about prisoners. They get let out of jail and they commit a crime and want to get caught so they can go back to jail because they're institutionalized. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses are institutionalized. And you'd think some of the smarter JWs, which are elders and ministerial servants and so forth, if they leave the JWs, guess what? They don't have any authority anymore. They're going back to being a window washer, a carpet shampooer, and janitors, those kind of jobs. So they stay in because people will give them respect and they have authority. I can remember leaving the Marine Corps as a sergeant. And the first job I had was just a crap job. And it was very depressing because I didn't have any authority. And that authority made me feel good about myself, that I was losing my voice tonight, I'm sorry, that I was a somebody when I was wearing that uniform and I had those stripes. I was somebody. But when I was working in an apartment complex, just picking up the papers that people, threw on the ground, I had to keep my section clean. I felt like a nobody. And that's just why a lot of people stay in. They're regimented. And as I alluded to earlier, they talk the same language and they can do something that a lot of people love to do. They can gossip. They can watch other people. They can say, "Oh, gee, look at that brother's suit. It's not a nice suit, or it's the car he's driving, or he's working." And this, they can talk about the sisters and what they're working. I've just seen so much judgment of other people in the Watchtower. It actually is quite sickening. And boy, am I glad, as you always say, that Satan kicked me out of his organization also.
Well, we're in good company, Dick. Hey, Dick, you got me thinking. But no, the Watchtower is like the military. There are people that like to be there, even though they know they could be killed. They just love the regimented lifestyle. Dick, thank you. That's very, very good comment. Let's go to 614. Michael, you're on with us.
Yeah, hi Rick. How you doing? I thought one of the questions you asked, how long? I think you posed it like when you realized this was a farce. How long did it take you to get out? Did you ask that question?
Yeah, that's a question.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Okay. So I realized it, and I stayed in for almost 5 years. I went along with the program and just went along with everything. But I got to the point where I couldn't go along with it anymore. And when I said something to somebody about it, of the things I had problems with, then that's when the shunning or staying away from me and all that stuff started. So then I got out. And when I got out, the thing is, I hear the people talking. Yes, you just seem like there's no place to go when you get out. And so I ended up, went back, started my band again, played the clubs, played the nightclubs, and led 10 years of hellation. I call it 10 years of hell, and led a terrible, immoral life. And but finally, I came back. I found Christ through the little girl. I've told you this story several times. When that little girl at Columbine High School said she believed in God with a gun to her head, that's when I got down on my knees and I said, I used to have the faith that this little girl had at one time. Now, Father, come into my life and show me the right way. And I prayed for knowledge. I prayed for, I said, I went along with the Jehovah's Witness things, and they weren't true. So I'm going to come to you directly. And you say, ask anything in your name, and you'll do it. I said, give me knowledge, give me understanding, and give me wisdom to get through this world and find your will. And I'll tell you what, Rick, after 15 years, I was praying to say, hey, I can't take it no more. I can't learn anymore. That's just too mind-boggling. I had to stop. And my relationship grew with Jesus Christ. Yes, and when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I was a subject to the organization. I believed in the organization. But then when I became a believer in Jesus, then I was his. I was called to him. I wasn't called to an organization. I finally understood the grace of Jesus. I finally understood the freedom of Jesus and the healing power of Jesus. And when I realized that, my whole life turned around, and everything's changed completely.
Well, thank you for that story, Michael. I mean, that's so important for people to hear. You're a new man. You're a new man now, and don't you ever change, Mike. We love you. Thank you, Mike.
Born again.
You got it. Well, there you go. That's our good friend, Michael King. Well, we know Mike, he certainly is heading his life in the right direction. Well, you were on the Six Screens Telenetwork here on JW World News. And I want to get into another story here before we go to Dick and Constance Borghi's program, unless someone wanted to speak up before we go to the next story. But I wanted to talk about those California wildfires. I wanted to talk about that tonight because it is unbelievable what's going on out in California. And, I've done some, looking up information on the witnesses and what's going on out there in California. And our hearts go out to all of the people. This is just an American tragedy. This is just unbelievable. Pixie was on early. I've been watching some of the news too. The insurance is going to really be, the insurance rates all around the country are going to go up. Now, that's okay. I mean, the people in California, they really need help, whether it be insurance or even if our rates have to go up, so be it. But something is really drastically wrong in that state. I'm not going to get political, but something's drastically wrong. So I wanted to talk about, first of all, what's going on in the witness world with California right now. What are they saying. Well, just to give you an idea, I did get some information from a man today. He is in the San Fernando Valley. Well, that is kind of like in between the fires that are going on. There's fires on one side of him, there's fires on the other side. So they have a Kingdom Hall there. In fact, there's probably a few in the San Fernando Valley, but this particular one, this brother, you claims he's a brother, but he's a pimo. So he says that the San Fernando Valley is right in between the fires, but the Jehovah's Witness organization did not want to not have a meeting. Now here we got 80-mile-an-hour winds, embers blowing all over the place, and the elder in the Kingdom Hall still wanted to have a meeting. Now I don't want to paint all Kingdom Halls with the same brush here, but I think this is a little bit crazy. They should have canceled the meeting, but they did cancel the meeting, but not because of the fires that could erupt. They canceled the meeting because there was no electricity. So, this is just, I'm not trying to in any way over embellish the idea that all Kingdom Halls would do that. But I know how it was up here. Even in a blinding snowstorm, they still wanted you to go to convention. And many times we had to go to the meeting. But, I got thinking today, what really, the Watchtower talks a good game. They're the most loving organization on the planet. But then I'm thinking, well, what are they really doing? Jehovah's Witnesses and the Watchtower, a $7 billion organization. They take a look at California. There's a lot of witnesses out there. What are they doing to really help the poor people? And I know we bring this up a lot here on the Six Screens. The Watchtower basically does nothing. But, I've been observing some ministries around the country today and seeing what they're doing. First of all, I know the Catholic Church, they opened up many churches. The Catholic Church has opened up many multi-purpose rooms, in churches. And anyone who needs a room to stay in, you've got people that their houses have just burned to the ground. So now what you've got is the Catholic Church opening up churches. They have these multi-purpose rooms where anybody that's escaping from the fire and who is in need of shelter can come to the Catholic Church. The church will provide them with food, drinks, bedding, toiletries, and help all of the displaced residents. Well, kudos to you. Thank you, Catholic Church. And then also I'm reading other ministries here. A ministry out in Dayton, Ohio. I mean, they're 2,000 miles away from California, but they're actually taking the lead. They're organizing a helping hand distribution effort. They're stepping up the lead to gather food and clothing and send it to the people. These are ministries. These are Christian ministries that are doing this. And then another ministry, also in Ohio, the Southern Baptist Disaster Relief Baptist Church. They're gearing up to provide relief and support for those in the fire 2,000 miles away. So, I'm reading stuff like this. And then I'm saying, what is the witnesses doing? I'm going to play a video. Hold on one second here. I'm going to play a video. Before I do, though, did you want to say something, JP, or I guess it's Pixie? JP first. Go ahead.
Hi, Rick. Yeah, I'm out here in California, in Southern California. But real quick, just going back to what you were asking about, like how long did it take you to wake up? Once I actually went on YouTube and started investigating the witnesses, it only took me like 2 days, like about 24 hours. And it was the worst 24 hours I probably had in my life. And I almost got no sleep the whole time. I was binge watching a lot of XJW videos. And for me, it was all the doctrine that got me out, because I was a true believer and stuff. I wasn't that aware of the extent of the child sex abuse. That was later what woke me up further. But for me, it was just the doctrinal stuff. And after I started, I allowed myself to finally watch one YouTube video that might seem suspicious. And after that, it pretty much went downhill from there. But as far as California, yeah, it's a big, huge mess out here. I'm about 45 minutes from the nearest fire.
Can you see smoke from the fire we were?
A few days ago, but the wind has shifted, so it's blowing it kind of away from my area. But something I found that was interesting is my mom's a senior citizen. She lives with me, and yesterday I was eating dinner, and she was doing some letter writing over Zoom with some other sisters. And the only thing that they were concerned about was the witnesses, and that's the whole conversation with, oh, this is so terrible, and oh, I wonder how many of the friends lost houses, and you know, the brothers are going to take care of them, and oh, I wonder if there's any Kingdom Halls affected. That was the only thing. And then one sister, she said, oh, I hope this letter really finds somebody that's very sad about all these fires, because I'm including this little tract that says, when will suffering ever end, or something like that. And she says, because of all this terrible stuff, I hope somebody will actually read the letter and that. But they have zero concern about anybody else who's affected, no concern about the firefighters, what they're going through, or anything. It shouldn't be surprising, because that's how it's always been. And even when I was a witness, I behaved in the same, disgraceful way too, only concerned about just ourselves.
Well, thank you, JP. Thank you for checking in with us and giving us your thoughts on leaving the Watchtower, how long it took. And thank you for sharing your thoughts on the fire. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, but everybody praying for California. There's been well over 10,000 houses and structures lost, and that was just in a 24-hour period. I was very worried about this state.
You have a copy.
I'm sorry, what?
Make sure you have a copy of like your mom's bank and social security numbers and things for yourself and your mom. And the one thing the witnesses did teach us right, which is Red Cross, is that go bag. Make sure you have written in a little book all those numbers, so that if you do have to evacuate, you've got your bank account numbers and all her numbers for her insurance and Medicare and Social and for yourself and all that. So use tonight and tomorrow as a way to get things in a little bag if you need it.
Yeah, thanks.
Because the people at the Pacific Palisades didn't have time, but the Eaton Fire people, they did, and the people themselves set up at Pasadena Rose Bowl, the Rose Bowl fairground there, have set up on their own to help others. But me, I got a lot of family and friends out there, but if it was me, I would be in the car in Vegas by now. Make sure you've got a go bag.
Yeah, I already have all that stuff ready, because I actually live in where I'm situated, where my house is. Behind my house is just a hill, and it's just nothing but wildland hillside. And about 11 years ago, I actually had to evacuate my house because a fire burned all the way up to our fence, and we almost lost the whole neighborhood. And that was about 11 years ago. So yeah, I'm very aware of the fire situation and stuff. I don't live like in the, in the inward cities or stuff like that. But even what you've noticed for these fires, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. These fires are taking out whole square blocks, complete shopping centers, markets, gas stations, everything. It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this in my life.
It looks like a war zone. And the Hollywood high school is totally gutted. Buildings you thought would withstand.
Yes. And out here in California, we're just literally one earthquake away from the whole state probably completely being bankrupt. And it would be, if we got hit at this point with a devastating earthquake, it would be a situation that I don't think it's already unmanageable, but it would be a complete, like almost 9/11 type of disaster, to where we'd probably have to get help from every other state. We're already getting help from Arizona, Utah, Nevada, Oregon. It's all sending firefighters. Even the country of Mexico, they sent a whole battalion or whatever of firefighters to help. That's just how bad the situation is. But on the days preceding, I'll probably talk about it another time. But I've seen things developing both in the skies through chemtrails and other stuff that have me to believe that this isn't by coincidence. All the fire hydrants were empty. On that Monday, I seen so many jets shooting chemtrails, and I know they can control the weather. And later that evening, it just popped up on the news out of nowhere that there was going to be a deadly wind situation and severe winds, unlike nothing we've ever experienced. And when I was looking up in the sky, I've never seen so many chemtrails. It looked like a spider web covering the sky. I counted like around 27 just over where I was on that Monday. Later that evening, they were saying there's going to be a catastrophic event. And then the next day, the wind, it drizzled a little bit, and then the winds just picked up like crazy. And then the fires kicked off, and 24 hours later, you got like 10,000 people, their houses are destroyed. Unacceptable, and I don't think it's just by coincidence. It just can't be. I've never seen anything like this, so I think it goes a lot deeper, but that's another conversation for another day. But thanks, Rick, for letting me.
Well, thank no, JP. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about that. I know a lot of people are going to be scratching their head and go, "What?" But hey, listen, you might be onto something there. Seriously. Okay. See, I think we got. Is that? Well, that's Delaware. I think that's Aaron. That's Aaron. Yep.
Yep, that's me. Yeah, I'm not going to go too long, Rick, because I know you want to end the show. But to piggyback a little bit on what JP was just saying there, I know people may have their reservations about Alex Jones over the years, but he's been exposing the globalists and their plot to destroy humanity for 30 years now. And of course, he's got some things, a lot of things right, and he's gotten some things wrong. But yesterday's InfoWars broadcast, he basically almost proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is, without question, a planned event to a degree. He posted a lot of proof of it and all that. So if anyone wants to check that out, there, feel free to. But I wanted to say too about the witnesses. In my mind, are, and I don't throw this word around lightly, but I think a lot of the witnesses are just narcissists, because when you have a situation like this, and they still are only mainly concerned about their own members, and of course their prospective members that they might bring in to the fold and say, okay, you're grandfathered in now, and then you can bring a couple more people in. But when you see these quote unquote worldly people, and not even governments, I mean, the U.S. government is completely bankrupt and broke. We don't have the money to send. Even if they wanted to print it, they're going to have to print it out of thin air and send it over there. And but here's the thing: we've sent so many resources over to Ukraine, whereas in places that we're sticking our nose in that it shouldn't even be in. When we got our own people, we had North Carolina, now we got LA. And so at the end of it all, what's going to come down to is the people are going to have to help the people, not the governments or anybody else, because the government, it's going to collapse at one particular time. You just don't know when. And that's my opinion, but we're basically, we're all in this for each other. And we're starting to see that now.
Yeah, well, I have to tell you, Aaron. I mean, not to put my tinfoil hat on here. I mean, some of this stuff I can connect with. Others, it takes me a little while for the soak in. But what I did find, and for those that are thinking, well, Rick, you're going to make this political. I'm not going to make it political. I'm just going to tell you. Did you hear about Mark Zuckerberg? The founder of Facebook. Did you hear what he said this week on the Joe Rogan show, Aaron?
Yeah, he made a pivot. Basically, they're changing Facebook now to community notes like Twitter or X is. I'll never call it X. It's Twitter to me. But yeah, it's kind of funny how Zuckerberg wants to just flip over at the drop of a hat, just probably because of a new administration that we have coming in, which isn't really going to change very much. And we've already seen that. He's already went back on some of his things that he said even a few weeks ago. So, It's all just
Well,
a plot to get him in there, and he's going to take care of his big buddies and the bankers and Wall Street, and Main Street is still going to continue to suffer. But
yeah.
it is kind of nice to see Facebook's flip flopping. But does that mean that when we have a next guy come in that he won't flip flop again? No, right? So.
Well, Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg. In fact, I like Facebook. We're broadcasting right now on Facebook, so I think it's a pretty good venue. But anyways, to cut to the chase on this, he was on the Grogan show, Joe Grogan, and he was saying, I'm not picking on Biden here, but I'm just going to lay it on the table. He was saying that representatives from the Biden administration, this is right on the Joe Grogan show, the podcast, he said that the administration contacted some of the officials at Facebook during COVID, and they told him not to in any way allow anyone to write anything negative about the COVID vaccine. And he was saying this. He got Biden really upset this week. I mean, Biden was outraged by it. But Zuckerberg was spilling the beans. He says he was told that's the reason why. And I know even YouTube, we got kind of warned on the fact we had people coming in talking about the COVID vaccine, 2 years ago. And YouTube warned me that you can't talk about that. And Zuckerberg as well with Facebook, he was told by the Biden administration, don't talk about anything negative about the COVID vaccine. I'll tell you what, that's a rabbit hole. I don't know how far down I can go, but I'm just thinking, why would the government tell Zuckerberg that? I mean, this is a fact. This is not some tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. He came on saying that. So I just wanted to bring that up. But the reason why I bring that up, and even JP brought up about the chemtrails. I don't know if you guys know about that at all, but some people say that these chemtrails, you look up, you see these trails in the sky. Some people just think it's, jet airliner exhaust causing these jet streams, but it's more than that. And, could they be changing the weather? So some people have said it could. But anyways, to put that story to rest and get back to the California situation, I found it very fascinating that in view of all of the mayhem, all of the destruction, it looks really like all that's left with some of these houses is ashes and rubble. That's it. There's nothing left. The only thing standing is the fireplace. But what I wanted to bring up here tonight is this, what is the Watchtower doing? There's so many organizations that are really putting forth an effort. I'm going to play you a video. I'm going to play it right now. And I want you to hear what other organizations are doing, ministries, Christian ministries are doing to help the poor people in California who have been affected by the fires. Listen to this video. I think you'll find it fascinating. I got a little bit of another one to play as well. Then we're going to talk about what the Watchtower is saying about the fires in California. Let's share it. Let's play it right now. Hopefully you guys can hear it well. Let's play it.
The devastation in the West Coast, and East Texas ministry is stepping up to lend a helping hand. Patrick Johnson, who runs Harleston's J-Star Ministries, has helped following Hurricane Katrina, tornadoes in Kentucky, and after the mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde. Now he's preparing to make the trip out to Southern California to assist with recovery efforts, making this his 60th trip.
Whenever tragedy happens, we always see on social media, and I've been guilty of it, thoughts and prayers for California, Uvalde, but people need more than thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers have their place. I'm a minister, I'm a praying man, and I believe in the power of prayer, but I also believe in love in action.
Johnson says this will be his most expensive trip yet. He is hoping to collect non-perishable food items, water, and other supplies before he leaves for his trip next week. There is still time to donate. You can find details on how to help Johnson on our website, cbs19.tv.
I'll stop that there. All right, so that's one video. We'll stop that one right there. Hold on 1 second. Let me go back to where we were. But you got the idea. What I'm trying to at least show you is ministries. He mentioned that you have to show love. That's what a Christian ministry would do. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses say they're the only loving Christian organization on the planet. Does this prove to be true? I have to say no. In view of what I'm seeing, all these Christian ministries all across the nation. Now, I'm going to show you. Now, you guys, I'm going to show you something. We have a man that does a program here on Sunday. His name is Scott Walton. He works for this company. It is a religious organization. It's Billy Graham's son, Billy Graham's son, Franklin Graham. And I want to play this video as well on what Franklin is doing, what the Billy Graham ministry, so to speak, is doing, Samaritan's Purse, to help the people in California. Then I'm going to show you what the Watchtower is doing. Listen to this. Let me just get this up so we can stream it. I just have to get it up here so we can see it. All right, the Graham ministry. All right. Let me go over here. This takes a couple of seconds just to get this up so that you'll be able to see it. Okay. All right. Let's play this right now, and we're going to share it. Listen in. Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to unmute it here. It seems to be muted.
Reverend Franklin Graham joins me. Reverend, before I ask you about some things Samaritan's Purse is doing, I just want to know that this afternoon, Newsmax made the decision to make a $100,000 donation to Samaritan's Purse to help Samaritan's Purse help those impacted by the wildfires. And of course, we encourage viewers also to donate, since every single cent helps, and they should go to SamaritansPurse.org if they can help. But so now turning to Samaritan's Purse, this is the 18th wildfire, at least from my research, that Samaritan's Purse has covered in California. So tell me, what's the plan?
Greta, right now we just have to wait till the fires are contained and are out before we can do anything. But at that point, Greta, when the fires are out and contained, it takes maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks for the first responders, fire departments, the police, to go canvass the communities. They have to go home by home to make sure there are no bodies. And of course, that just takes time. But they don't want people like us in there working. They don't want the homeowners back in there. So it's just one of these things we have to wait. But as soon as they give us all clear, we'll go in. And the first thing that we'll do is we'll offer homeowners assistance if they want our assistance. And lots of times what they're looking for is valuables that may have survived the fire, maybe a wedding ring or something like that. And so we'll go in and we'll help sift through the ashes. And that takes a team of people to take one part of the house and sifting every square inch of the ashes that are on the ground. And we find, Greta, coin collections. We found picture albums that somehow survived. Not only coin collections, but rings. A lot of jewelry sometimes survives. And to be able to give something back to a homeowner, just even a little thing like a ring that survived, it means so much to them. And then if they'll help us, we'll help clear off if the government will let us, we'll help clear off the lot and prepare it to where they can build back.
When you talk about evacuation, talk about, it's almost like it's so easy to use that word. But even this morning, when I grabbed from my toothbrush, I was thinking like, if you evacuate, you got nothing. I mean, these people have absolutely nothing. They don't have the toothbrush. They just got up and left with everything that they could carry. And now there's nothing left at home.
That's right, Greta. They don't have clothes. Even if they went and rented an apartment somewhere, there's no furniture. It's a tough deal for them. And a lot of these people are these evacuation centers, and that's good temporarily, but that's not going to make it. We've got chaplains from the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association that are on site. We have about 20 there in Southern California that are going to help respond to this. And we go in and just pray with people. And listen, people want to tell their story, Greta. This is the most traumatic probably event in their life, and how they escaped from the flames and got out of there. And so they want to tell their story. So these chaplains will just listen, and we'll pray with them and try to encourage them and let them know that God hasn't turned his back on them, that God loves them and cares for them. And so it's a very important ministry, just to help them emotionally and spiritually with these chaplains that have been trained for this type of crisis.
You know, and of course, I mean, are you, by the way, is Samaritan's Purse still in Maui, that fire at Lahaina, whatever it was, a year and a half ago? Are you still working there? Because that, I mean, we saw that place burn down.
Yeah, Lahaina, we've just been allowed just this year to go in and start the rebuilds. And so it was a long process out there, but we're in there doing rebuilds right now.
It's just incredible. Anyway, thank you to Samaritan's Purse, and of course, all its volunteers. And a reminder to the viewers, SamaritansPurse.org, even if you send $10, if enough people send $10, it's a lot of money to
Well, there you have it. I mean, that's amazing. So there you see the Samaritan's Purse, other ministries around the world are stepping up and helping the poor people in California. So now what I want to do is I want to bring you into the Watchtower. What is the Watchtower doing to help the people in California? Well, let me share the screen here. Let me get this up so you can see it. And let me just make sure it's up. Okay, it is. All right, let's go back to my, okay, let's bring this up right now. Let's share the screen. All right, I think that's it. Let me just double check and make sure. Okay, there it is. Well, that's jw.org. You can see it on your screen right now. So I'm just going to scroll down, and I want you to see what the Watchtower is doing. Now, what they do have, I got into the news of Watchtower, which is nothing newsworthy about the California fires. This is just talking about extreme weather and showing a picture of fires on the front cover. So let me get in here 1 second. All right, so there you see it is showing the fire destruction, but it's showing floods. The title of the Watchtower is Extreme Weather. Can the Bible help you cope? All right, but nothing here. I did not read anything on here at all about Watchtower making any effort at all to even help at this point the witnesses in the fire. Now, never mind just like the other ministries helping any Christians, helping anybody that's been affected by this fire. But, the Watchtower article here, Extreme Weather, Can the Bible Help You Cope with It? It starts off, are you one of the millions who have been affected by extreme weather? Dangerous weather and the damaging effects can take many forms. Well, it goes on, but this is what I wanted to read you. This is really something that I think we all should discuss here tonight. I want to bring this to your attention. This is right off of jw.org. Now, there's a subheading here in the magazine. God cares about victims of extreme weather. All right, God cares about victims of extreme weather. But does the Watchtower care? Now, let me read this to you. You're going to find this fascinating. The Bible reveals, I'm reading it verbatim, the Bible reveals that Jehovah God, is caring and empathetic. And consider the following comforting verses. I want you to consider this. Isaiah 63:9. During all their distress, it was distressing to God. Yeah, so God is looking down. He sees all these natural disasters. He sees the fires in California. And according to Isaiah, he's distressed by seeing this. And then the meaning, the Watchtower here gives the meaning. It says that Jehovah is deeply affected by the distress of those who suffer. All right, so they're admitting that Jehovah is affected by the distress of those who suffer. But is the Watchtower really distressed? Is the Watchtower really empathetic to those who suffer? And then 1 Peter 5:7, they have, I'm reading it right off the Watchtower website.
We're not getting the answer to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a Watchtower here.
Go ahead.
The Watchtower can give a damn.
Yeah.
As long as they get money coming into their pockets. They did this at 9/11 when the towers came down. They were right across the street almost, right across the river. You think they could have fed some firemen or helped out? It was all they did was to appease everybody, because they put some Watchtower and Wait magazines in the first responders' hands like they didn't have enough to do. They're going to sit down and read the Watchtower or the Awake magazine. They never help anybody. They have $7 billion in their accounts over there in Ireland. And, you know, they could help, but they just don't want to. They're keeping it all to themselves. They ain't even going to help other Jehovah's Witnesses to rebuild kingdom halls. They're going to say, well, hit your insurance policy up, and if you need some money from us, well, the interest rate is 5% or something. When you loan money to a brother that's is in a bad way, you're not supposed to charge him interest. The Bible says that. But does the Watchtower care about that? I know the Kingdom Hall we built and drank it. They charge interest on the loan. That's just the way they are. They're greedy beyond. They're greedy beyond anybody's imagination. That's just how damn greedy they are. Thanks, Rick.
Well, I'm glad that that those thoughts brought you out of the bullpen, Dick. I'm really glad. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is JP again. Yeah, that article is absolutely useless. They're not going to do anything as much to even hand out one bottle of water to one firefighter or somebody in need. They're not going to do absolutely nothing. The only disaster relief that they're going to do is rebuilding any kingdom halls or facilities that they blast, and then they might help a few of their members, but at the same time, they're still going to want to claim their insurance policy and all that. We already know that they've been doing that since Katrina and before. So they ought to be ashamed and embarrassed of themselves, even the local people. I can't believe even the local members don't have even enough sense to just say, you know what? People just drop off some water, some food, some clothing, whatever, and we're just going to, a few elders or a few, pioneers, they can even count their time. Hell, the pioneers, they can count their time. Let's drive to LA and let's go take some people, at least help out one family or even one person, but they're not going to even do that. They're only going to help themselves, and they're just going to, take advantage of this fear and this disaster to, further promote their doomsday end day times to try to put more fear into their own members. And that's all I think they're going to do, Rick. That's all they're going to do, because that's all they've ever done. And they prove themselves no better than this disaster and whatever one comes next. I think it's just despicable.
Well, thank you, JP. I mean, I have to agree with you. I'm reading this right off of jw.org, and now they give a scripture. 1 Peter 5:7. He cares for you. Jehovah cares for you if you're suffering in one of these extreme disasters, as they brought up. Well, and then it brings out here from the scripture I just read, he cares for you. What the Watchtower is saying, it's meaning Jehovah is concerned about your welfare. Is the Watchtower concerned about the welfare of the poor people in California? Now listen to this. Jehovah's care and empathy move him to act. He provides comfort through practical advice in the Bible and reliable hope it contains for a future without weather-related disaster. So they're saying Jehovah cares and shows empathy, and he moves to help these ones. Is the Watchtower moving to help these ones? The answer is no. And what look at my advice to the governing body, if they're listening, are you guys trying to get a better image? Do you want this tarnished image that you now have? Are you trying to get a better image? Why don't you go help those people in California? You don't have to spend billions. You don't have to spend, as Dick said, you got $7 billion. You don't have to spend all of that. Why don't you just spend, say, maybe $1 million? Geez, there's movie stars out there that are, putting $1 million into the till. Why don't you spend just $1 million or $2 million and then help the people in California? I mean, that would help you guys. It'd give you a nice PR, right? You don't do it. I don't understand it. You didn't do it during 9/11, like Dick said. You didn't do it during any disaster. And Billy Graham's son was on here, Franklin Graham. You just heard him. They're still in Maui. Those fires in Maui, Hawaii, that was just like 2 years ago. They're still in there working. I mean, what is going on with this organization? How do they think that they can tote themselves as being the only Christian organization on the planet, the only one that shows love, and get away with it? They can't. You're on with us, Dan. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to agree with you, Rick. If they wanted to get on the front page of the news, they could put, Jehovah's Witnesses gets $2 million to help with the aid. And excuse me, that would be really good publicity. But man, and they may, you never know, but I would be surprised. But, the main thing is, Rick, the transformation Watchtower doesn't have, no matter how much they say they believe in Jesus and know Jesus and Jesus this and Jesus that, and all this conversion, it doesn't mean nothing if it doesn't move your heart. The transformation, the being born again or whatever, all has to do with the heart shift. You move out of giving scriptures to giving a hand up. Jesus showed it over and over and over. He said the Good Samaritan was laying there, the guy went over and offered him a hand up. If we don't have a hand up, then we don't have the heart of Christ or the mind of Christ. And that's the thing about Christianity. Not I'm a Christian. It's you're a Christian by the way, how you live, how you engage with people. It's the lovingness that you have that's not of this world. The lovingness comes from God. That's why it said these spiritual fruits are not of this world. So if you don't have that spiritual fruit to serve and give, like Franklin Graham is saying, we're going down there, we're going to go through every house, we care about people, then you don't have that mind. And it's so interesting. Me and Angela were watching yesterday the people feeding people, and it was beautiful. They didn't even look like they were religious. They were down there, had big grills going and telling people, take all you want, take everything you want. One lady stood there, took all these burritos, and this guy would just grin and ear to ear. That is the mind of Christ. That is the heart of God. And so if they don't have that, all the scriptures don't mean nothing. I had a spiritual teacher one time that said, don't read me a damn scripture. Don't tell me no scriptures. Don't give me nothing. Give me your heart. Give me a hand up. You know what I mean? It was like that. And it's like you said, Rick, it's clear to see, it's a cult. It's inverted. It's twisted. And Watchtower is so greedy that they would just put it on paper. Jehovah loves these people. Jehovah cares for these people. And our hearts go out to them, which don't do a damn thing, like Borgie said.
Well, it's almost laughable, Dan. It really, really is. Yeah, it's almost humorous that they could do such a thing. Jehovah cares for your welfare. Jehovah's going to help you. Well, what about them helping you? Jeez,
Rick, it's just badges. And see, people anymore are not looking at badges. Nobody cares what anybody is. You can say you're a Buddhist, you stay up in the mountains, but do you give a shit about people? That's what people want to know. Do you really care about me? Do you want to know me? Do you think I'm a human, or do you think I'm an outcast? Nobody cares about the badges anymore. Everybody's looking for that heart, and the heart is what moves people. I mean, if somebody saw a big donation, a million witnesses going down there, leaving, going down there to help, get on a big bus and just says we want to do whatever we could, that would move millions of people. Love moves people, not words. You want to say something, Angela?
No, that was great, Dan.
No, that's it. That's it, guys.
Well, no, not only is Angela saying that was a good comment, but also we have people on YouTube writing it as well. Excellent comment, Dan. No, it is. There's an old saying. We know the saying, little euphemism. Your actions speak louder than your words. And, where's the action of the Watchtower? And I just can't get it. I just don't understand why they don't take advantage of situations like this, where they really could get, people thinking, geez, that's a great organization,
Yes, and I was going to say something, Rick. Oh, go ahead.
Tim from Australia, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, good day, Rick. Just quickly, I've had personal experience with a fire literally destroying the house that we lived in, and I had nothing. And it could be argued, yeah, I was distant from the witnesses at that time for a while, but I'd never been disfellowshipped, and someone rang up all relatives to see if they could donate. I think we got $50, which, to be honest, is pretty poor, but someone went around the block, and we knew no one in the neighbourhood, and we got about 400 just off my little block. That's the difference between the world and with witnesses. And even when I was a witness, to travel away, we had to get some help. And they double-checked with the congregation and scrutinised before they even give you any kind of help at all to check whether you're actually a witness. I'd say that's still in place today. Just to bring a quick scripture into it, the Bible kind of says about, do you love those who love you? What reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet only your brothers, what are you doing more than others? Do not the Gentiles do the same? Yeah, the Gentiles and the tax collectors do more. That's the level they're at. Thank you, Rick.
Well, Tim, always good to hear from you from Australia. Thank you very much for dialing in tonight. Well, it's official. From what I can see, and going to jw.org, not only this week, but also today, and checking out, is there any news in there of helping the people in California? No, nothing. But yet we have all these ministries around the country and around the world that are mustering their troops together to help the people in California. And friends, our hearts go out to you out there. We pray for you, and we pray that this fire can get out so that people can get back to business and live a normal life. Okay, any last questions on this before we go to, yeah, go ahead.
You said that you asked that you don't understand why Watchtower wouldn't do something like to get up like their image. Even though they're obsessed with their image, they're also obsessed with money, and they just don't care. We're really seeing Watchtower show their true colors in these times that we're living in right now. They don't give a crap. They don't give a crap about their families. Anybody that's apostate and doesn't think like them, they don't care. They don't care about what's going on in the fires. They don't give a damn. It has nothing to do with them. All they'll do is they'll probably, like we talked about earlier, they'll come up with a puff piece. Oh, end times, what can you do to encourage yourself through these horrible times? But they're not giving anything of their time, their resources, anything. Why? Because they're rotten men. The men who run this are rotten to the bone. It'd be like trying to get, I don't know, I wasn't there for the history, but supposedly, right, Hitler was a bad man. It'd be like trying to get Hitler to cool off and calm down. If you're demonized and you're on the wrong side, you're demonized and you're on the wrong side. Your true colors will always come out, just like what California is doing right now. Like Jerry was saying, this is neglectful abuse, and and I think it's done purposeful, not just abuse. And the true colors of our government are showing, aren't they? They're giving money to Ukraine and not to the American people who are going through all these problems. It's everyone else first. They have other ulterior motives. Same thing with the Watchtower. They copy our government to a T almost. I mean, or their shadow government, if you will. But Watchtower just doesn't care. How can you get a narcissist to care about what the pain that other people are going through? Thanks, Rick.
Well, Eric, that was a fantastic comment. Fantastic comment. You're hitting it right on the head. There's no question about it. And what I liked, even though they know this is pretty offensive, I would think if you were an organization the size they are, I mean, they're not some massive religion like the Catholics, for example, but I mean, they still are a pretty big organization to some degree. You think that they would really, throw something into the kitty here and say, come on, we want to help a little bit. Jeez, I mean, but I like what you said. They're greedy. They don't want to spend a dime. Dick, what do you have to say?
Yeah, Rick, we stop to think about it for a minute. How did they get their $7 billion? They got it through donations from the rank and file. And you think that they would, give something back to the Jehovah's Witnesses that lost their homes and things of that nature, said, "Hey, bro, well, here's 30,000 for each one of you because they can afford it, and help you rebuild your house." No way are they going to do that. They are not going to spend a cent. That money is their God. That's who they worship. They don't have any love in their heart, even for the fellow Jehovah's Witnesses. You know, if they gave just, well, I want to say just, but you've got $7 billion, and you don't have to spend it on much, just, maintaining property. That this is a company that is buying property, and the property values go up every single year, about 14% is average. And they're still making money, but they won't release one penny. They're not going to send 1 cent to California. They didn't send 1 cent to Hawaii, and they didn't send a cent to the hurricane. And on 9/11, when the Twin Towers came down, not a penny came out of their pocket. They won't even. You got a brother that spends 30 years at Bethel, took a vow of poverty. Then he said, "Well, brother, we're laying you off. Go back to your former congregation." They don't know him anymore. They won't even give that person who busted his backside for 30 years any money. They'll probably give him enough money to get bus fare to get the heck out of Bethel because they don't need him any longer. That's the kind of organization that we once belonged to. And I tell you what, I hate the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. I love my former brothers, and I love the poor people that are stuck in that lying cult. And me and Connie are going to go into how much lies and how much money they have right after your show there, Rick.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be. Well, you're right, Dick. Thank you for your emphatic gestures here tonight and your narrative on that, because it's absolutely true. And I always say I don't have a soft spot from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. Now, that's not to say that all Jehovah's Witnesses are bad people. I know many that are good, but I'm talking here about the Watchtower, and that's what Dick's talking about as well. And I want to clarify something too, because we have, I'm detecting here tonight. I am detecting. I mean, I've been doing this program for 20 years. You got to pick up on something. We have got a bunch of PMEs coming in here tonight. We have got a lot of new people coming in, a lot of people questioning the Watchtower. I'm looking at the numbers here. The numbers are skyrocketing. So I just want to make one clarification. Dick, you have mentioned numerous times tonight, as well as I did as well, that the Watchtower has assets worth $7 billion. So maybe some of you PMEs, or maybe if you have not heard about that, back in November 2024, the Watchtower organization has set up an asset management company in Ireland. And according to an Irish newspaper, it would be like the New York, or it would be like the Wall Street Journal here in New York. That Irish newspaper is saying that the Watchtower organization is worth $7 billion in assets. Now, assets are different than liquid. It's not saying the Watchtower has $7 billion in cash, but either way, it's a very lucrative organization. And, I'm sure they have a lot of cash too. So it's not like they're cash poor. So they could do something. Friends, even all of us, in fact, I'll tell you, the Samaritan's Purse is one of the only organizations I contribute to. And, you don't have to contribute a lot, sometimes $50, maybe $10, $20. But, it's a little bit that goes a long way. If everyone gave $10, it would work, $5 even. By millions of people, it would work. So, even the Watchtower, even if they encouraged the Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't have to give, $1 billion to the fire efforts. But if they encourage the witnesses, how help, Jehovah's Witnesses, everyone send in $5, $10, $20. They wouldn't even do that. It wouldn't even be their money, but they wouldn't even do that. Well, I mean, that's the way I feel about it. That's the way. One more last comment, then we're going to go to the duck game. One more last comment. JP, do you want to say something?
Yeah, real quick, Rick. I just wanted to say that not trying to get like into a Sunday 6 ring show, but the witnesses are, they claim to be a Christian organization that they're giving and all that, but they don't practice anything like that. For example, Jesus said we should pray for our enemies. They don't pray for the enemies, they pray for the destruction of their enemies. And then earlier, our friend and brother Tim was talking about a scripture. And then even just one real quick in the epistle, it says in Hebrews 13:16, it says, but do not forget to do good and to share, for such sacrifices God is well pleased. Watchtower never gives sacrifices or does goodwill to other people, barely to themselves, if anything. So that just goes to show how unchristian of an organization they are. And maybe this will wake some witnesses up just to see like how lack of a response it is compared to all the other organizations and just groups. But I mean, there's just regular citizens that are just taking stuff, donating stuff, and even the society, even if they don't want to get involved or cut a check like other people were saying, it would be nice if Watchtower said, we're going to donate $25 million to, California fire relief, but they won't do that. But it would probably in the long run actually help the religion to grow, but they're just that stupid and that greedy. So they're not going to do anything. And I think, and hopefully this will wake up some people that are in the organization and see, like, what are we doing here besides handing out, pamphlets and tracts to people? We're doing absolutely nothing to help people. Even Jesus had enough sense that before he even started, preaching to people or sharing his message, he would even make sure that, he knew the needs of people to make sure that they were comfortable, to feed them, give them water and stuff before he started preaching. And these people don't even have sense enough to do anything, even for their own members. It's just insane just to see how it is. But I mean, they stand by it, and a lot of their members, it just goes right over their head. They think they're doing so well, but they literally do nothing at all, and they've never done anything ever. But that's all, Rick.
Well, JP, it's always good to hear from you. Thank you, JP, for checking in tonight. And you mentioned 25 million. The Watchtower doesn't have to give 25 million. They really don't. They don't even have to give $1 million. But you know what they could do? Because I remember when Hurricane Andrew hit Florida, I believe it was back in 1992. I'm not sure, somewhere around there. But when Hurricane Andrew hit Florida, what they did, I was living in Florida at the time, and the Watchtower said, okay, all you brothers and sisters, get some coats, get some food, get some pillows, some blankets, whatever, and bring it to the Plant City Assembly Center. And, we'll send it off to Florida, South Florida, where the disaster was. If they would even do something like that, and they could take these big JW.org trailer trucks. They got semis with JW.org on the side of them. They could load them up with, all of the gatherings, food and clothing and Pampers and diapers and all of the stuff that people would need. My goodness, and see those trucks going there, JW.org, and that wouldn't cost a Watchtower $25 million. It wouldn't even cost it $1 million. The brothers and sisters would pay for it. But even to do that, they won't even do that. Well, thank you all for,
real quick, Rick, just one last point. About a month and a half or 2 months ago, that channel calling Watching Watchtower, they came out with a video. And if it's true what they were saying based off of a European report, that Watchtower, you and Dick's numbers are actually off by quite a bit, but the whole organization with all their property assets and everything is worth about $55 billion. Yes, billion with a B, and that they pull in about $2 billion worth of donations and donated property and other stuff every year annually. So I think it's far bigger than what any of us ever realized. It's way above the Mormon church. It's like up there with like the Catholic church. So if anybody wants to find that information out, you can go to the YouTube channel called Watching Watchtower.
Well, thank you for that, JP. Well, anyways, we appreciate all the comments. We appreciate all the people dialing in. Yes, Eric.
Hey, I know you said it was the last comment. This is more of a statement that I'd like to give to everyone, and it won't take long if you don't mind. I don't really want to wait for my show. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, and I'm not going to give names because there's been so much support that I don't want to forget anyone. But everyone knows who you are, whether they helped me financially or whether they helped me with a phone call or a text or even a card in the mail. I really appreciate all of you. It really shows that how much love we have in this little group. And if you think about it, everyone, I did a little thing for Desiree, and we got 1.3 thousand views on it. And where could I get 1.3 thousand people to show up at the Kingdom Hall? I know that's an impossible number because you can't fit them in the Kingdom Hall. But this was unconditional love and support and care. And this had nothing to do with Watchtower, and it's beautiful because we're outshining the Jehovah's Witnesses, because it doesn't matter what faith you are or what religion you belong to, or if you're an atheist or whatever. We show love regardless, and I've received a lot of that, and I'm just very thankful from the bottom, sides, and top of my heart to all of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that, Eric. So you're doing okay now? You're feeling a little better? Yeah, it's hard still, I'm sure, but it's
a grieving process. But I have my ups and downs, but I'm doing good, and I'm hanging in there, and I'll have a show next week. But I love you all, and thank you so much, you and Susan, and all your support. Again, I'm not going to name names because I'm just going to forget everybody.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you
so much, everybody.
Well, we really know you really mean that, Eric. Thank you for saying that. All right. So, anyways, we're going to go the duck game. Now, we'll do it quick because I want to bring the Borgies. They're coming on shortly. So, we'll get a few questions here. Look at, you guys can win a book. I want you to take, you're going to get points. I'm going to ask some questions. We have some secret words that nobody really said tonight. So, I'm going to give you some clues to the secret words, and you could win a book. You could win a great book like this one right here, The Way to Paradise, for example. Now, that book there, that's written by Judge Rutherford. What a crazy book. It talks about life after Armageddon and how people would live and how they would act. That book right there we want to give you. We have another book here. We want to thank Jim Hill out of Washington State. He's giving us these books to give away. We got another one here, The Bible for the Scientists by Van Amberg. He was a Jehovah's Witness, and this talks all about the pyramids and how Russell looked to the pyramids to point to 1914. That's all in this book. We got Millions Now Living Will Never Die. You'll win 5 points. I want you guys, if you get 5 points, you get a book. So I want you guys to kind of keep score on your own. It's on the honor system. You get a certain amount of points. The more points you get, the better the prize. If you can get 12 points will get you $100. We've already had 2 people hit the $100 range. So let's ask the questions here tonight. See if you can say the word that is in the envelope or the term. And we're going to play the Jeopardy music. When the Jeopardy music stops, answer the question, but don't answer it before the music. So the first question would be, what I would like if someone out in the audience can name 3 themes for convention. Every convention had a theme. If someone could come on and tell me 3 themes for a convention, you get 2 points here tonight. You guys have got to keep score. So 2 points, wait till the music stops and tell me 3 themes, kind of hard to say that, 3 themes for the conventions that were held by the Jehovah's Witnesses. Don't answer till the music stops. Okay, 3 themes.
Divine rulership, divine victory,
and light bearers.
You got it. Who is this?
It's a pasta dude.
A pasta dude. I mean, how did you know that?
I was at a lot of conventions, especially the early ones in the 70s.
So you get good memory. I'm seriously a pasta dude. That's good. So you got that. So okay. So take and give yourself what did I say? 3 points or 2 points?
I'll take whatever points I can get. But Rick, while I got you,
Yeah.
about two or 3 months ago, before I had my vision repaired,
Yep.
I got the right answer on an answer was called sandwich board.
Right.
And I think my email is going into your spam.
All
so
right.
I'll get your information from Joe, and I don't. Honest to goodness, if you go into your spam, I got a funny email that I don't want to.
All right. Well, what to do is send me again. Send it again to JW World News, because I mean I got probably 100,000 emails since then.
I know.
So
I believe you.
So what to do is send it to me again, jwworldnews@gmail.com. And that's what happens. Some people say, where is this? Where is that? I never got it. So go ahead and do that. Yeah. I'll get you the points. And no, you add those up. Take 3 points today. Take 3 points today.
Okay.
And when you
bonus point.
When you get 5 points, you get magnets. If you can kind of hold on 10 points, you get books. And if you can go to 12 points, you get $100. Okay.
All right. I bet I can do it. Hey, one last point.
Sure.
Do you have any more copies of the Don Cameron book?
Yeah, that's the book. Yeah. You'll need 5 points.
Yeah.
How many you got so far?
Well, I won that. There were no points.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, we're gonna. If you got that, and again, you let me know. What I want you to do is write me at JW World News. I'll send you the book. Make sure I get your address. Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Because I get books back. I send books out and then I get them back. Make sure I get the right address. Take your time to put that address down. Okay. Thank you. That'll help me. All right. So there you go. Look at that. He knew 3 themes for the convention. All right. Let's take another one here. Let's go to the next one. All right. Let's go with this. I want you to, we're going to talk about the pyramids here. We're going to ask a question about the pyramids. I want you to tell me what Russell calculated by the pyramids. What date did he come up with calculating and measuring the pyramids of Giza, the chambers in the pyramids? So let's don't tell me yet. Let's let the music play. All right. Let's. Okay.
1914.
Dick, I think you were first.
I got it.
You got it. Good. Okay, Dick, you got it. Okay, mark that down. Take a point for that. Okay.
I'm still waiting for the Mercedes.
Yeah. Okay. That's coming up. That's 6,000 points. So. All right. So let's go to the next question. All right. The next question here has to do with, you tell me, in the Watchtower, they would change names. They wouldn't call things that normally a secular organization would call something. They would change it. So we didn't call it the bulletin board. What did we call it?
Information board.
Well, okay, you're disqualified.
No, I'm sorry, I messed up.
Okay, yep, nope, you're disqualified. We can't play that one. It was the information board. Don't answer before the question, okay? All right.
Okay, I'm bad.
That's okay.
Right,
you're bad. We're gonna punish you. We're gonna punish you bad. Okay.
I didn't mean
it. I know it. I'd even mess up. Don't worry about it. It can happen. All right. So let's do another one like that. All right. Let's go with. All right. Don't anybody answer now. We didn't call it the stage. We call it the
Platform.
All right, we had three people say it. I'm going to try to decipher who said it first. I think it was 864.
That would be me, Rick.
Was
How
that,
you doing?
Well, Robert,
South Carolina, Robert.
Yeah, you were quite the champion. Yeah. So take a point on that, Robert. Okay.
Thank you, Rick.
All right. Good. Thank you. All right. Let's. All right. So we know that the Watchtower would always take and change the names for some odd reason. Like we just said, they didn't call it bulletin board; they call it information board. They didn't call it the stage; they call it the platform. All right. So, can someone give me another term that the Watchtower played games with? All right, give me another term that the Watchtower took and played games with. Boy, I thought I would get some takers on this one. We just talked about two, but what's another one? You want to take a shot? All right, we didn't call it a church. We called it yeah.
No, I just put that on YouTube. All good. I was going to donate the point if I got it first.
Okay, so
Congregation.
We didn't call it. We didn't call it a church. We called it what?
A congregation. Yeah, and that the thing is, they're repulsed by the word church, but it means a congregation. That's how stupid they are. Thanks, Rick. Whoever wants that point can have it. Thank you.
So it wasn't a church. What did they call it?
It was a Kingdom Hall, but I don't need any points.
Well, Pixie, you've already got a number of points. You got a number of points with us.
The thing that messes me up is publisher, because they were the ones that had the printing company, and they used a lot of weird words.
Yeah. Well, they change words. They change it. They don't want to, they never really use Christian terms. They don't want to go with Christ is dwelling in you. They would never say that. They would always say that you're in union with Christ. I mean, there's 1,000 things the Watchtower does to change it. I'd like to go on further.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim.
Oh, Rick, I was going to say there's also undeserved kindness instead of grace. That's another classic one they use.
Oh yeah, I know. There's probably 100 of them. Can't think of them off the top of my head, but you're absolutely right, Tim. Well, anyways, I think we have to end it there. I hate to end it. I'm having so much fun. But we got Dick Borgie and his wife Constance. They're coming on next. They got a program exposing the Watchtower. Well, I want to thank you all.
I got a question.
Yeah,
I got a question before we go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm on the radio here, so I can't see this, but I'm thinking that there's door number 1, 2, and 3, and a beautiful brunette model who's very thin with high heels. Behind door number 3 is a Bentley and a bottle of Macallan's. Am I right?
Well, what doors is that? You're looking at 2 and 3?
Yeah. Well, I guess I should have picked door number 1.
You should have put door number 1. That's what the real prize is behind. Thank you, Pixie. All right. Well, anyways, we're going to end it there. I thank you all for coming in tonight to JW World News. We'll do it again next week. I really thank everyone for coming on and giving their opinions. Friends, we are having fun doing this. We got a big audience tonight, and come on back next week. Come on back next week and be with us as well. And I want you to keep standing tall. I don't want you to ever give up, in or out. I want you to keep waving the flag of victory. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. We'll see you next week, JW World News. Stay with us. Because I'll tell you what, we got Dick Borgie and his wife Constance coming up. They're going to be exposing the Watchtower. But also Sunday, tomorrow, We have Six Screen Sunday. Now, if you're into theology and you like the scriptures, well, tomorrow we get into that. We don't do that on Saturday night because people head for the mountains when they hear it. But if you're into the scriptures and you don't want to leave God behind, when you leave the Watchtower, come in tomorrow, begin at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a program called Knowing God after leaving the Watchtower. We have 2 Christian apologists that will help you through some of your Bible questions. Then, of course, at 2 o'clock, we have Anne Marie. She comes on. We have a program, Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, share their story of being in the Watchtower. And then at 3 o'clock, we do JW World News Sunday edition. And then 4 o'clock, we do the Christian Court. My goodness, we have questions, peculiar questions that are asked to Christians. And what answers would they give? And then if you have Bible questions, we have a scholar. In fact, he at one time was on the writing department of the Watchtower. He is going to be on tomorrow at 5 o'clock p.m. His name is Jay Hess. If you have a Bible question, call Jay tomorrow. Okay, so the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. Okay, we're going to end the program here. Thank you for listening in. We got Dick and Constance up next. Don't leave us now. They got a great program coming up.